Hey, what's up, guys? Blaine Duncan here from Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers, joined, as always, by my brother, my partner in crime, everything in between, Austin Duncan. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just been excited to get to this today. Had to go through another shitty day of work to get here, and happy to be here, man. How about you?
Yeah, we're doing great. I just literally 24 hours ago had my appendix removed. It decided it was time to come out, and but we have to go on with the show. And there's a really good Motley Crue song called "On with the Show." We should insert that here for like 5 seconds.
But I'm sorry, your pancreas, or sorry, not your pancreas, your appendix.
Oh, thank God, not my pancreas. Yeah.
Sorry, your appendix.
I wouldn't be here. Probably wouldn't be here if that happened.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But today we got a pretty fun show. I think for me, not all of my friends are super, at least to this level of Michael Myers love. And whenever in October am watching the movies, and if they come over or they see it, they're always like, didn't this person die in a different movie? And who's this character? Why is it not Laurie? The timelines of the Halloween series are ridiculous to the casual viewer. So we're going to be your guides through these timelines today.
That's right. Through thick and thin, man. We've seen all of them. We've dissected all of them together at some point, and we're going to talk about them a little bit here, and not necessarily even do it in any specific order or any rank or anything like that. We're going to probably touch on which ones might be our favorites, but yeah, we're going to roll into it and just get and here's the thing, like we always say, give us your feedback, give us your opinions. Today I just put a poll out on Instagram. And I'll share those results at the end of the show or when we get done talking about the timelines, because it is interesting to see people's different opinions and takes on which timelines they like, which ones they don't. So I'll share that with you when we get done. But yeah, man, let's roll right into it. Let's roll into the timelines.
So for the people watching right now, we've kind of got everything laid out on screen, but obviously we'll be going through it either way here. But we got the sequel timeline, which is Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, and Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. We also have the H2O timeline, which is Halloween, Halloween 2, H2O, and Resurrection. And then we have the newest timeline as well, the H40 timeline with Halloween from 1978, Halloween from 2018, Halloween Kills, and then Halloween Ends. And then we've got kind of these weird timelines that, you got to include here. The Anthology timeline. Obviously, John Carpenter's original idea was to have the Halloween series be a anthology with different stories each Halloween. So we've got Halloween from 1978, and then we've also got Season of the Witch, along with the Rob Zombie reboot timeline. We're going to cover them all.
Heck yeah. Yeah, no. And, here's the thing. I mean, we've talked about it obviously already. We love all these movies, even our ones that don't make the list is a top end favorite for us. We love all of them. And it's kind of, personally for me, I was thinking about this today when I knew we were going to be recording this episode. I was thinking, man, which timeline really is my favorite? And I struggled with it a little bit because I actually appreciate the fact that there are different options, a little bit of a choose your own adventure sort of, theme going on. And I like that. I mean, it's kind of cool because, you can be in a certain mood that you want to go down one road or go down another, and they all offer something a little bit different. And, just as a Halloween fan, I like that. I like having those options.
Yeah, totally. And there's certain things I appreciate about one that the other one doesn't have. Even the ones that I'm not too crazy about, obviously still love them. So why don't we start with kind of the OG timeline, the sequel timeline. Up until the late 90s, this was the Halloween series. What do you got to say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I love this obviously for many different reasons. Mostly because, those 5 movies that are up there are the ones that rank incredibly high for me in our list. Outside of Halloween 5, which is still a movie that I enjoy. Those other three, I'm sorry, those other four are just films that I could watch them damn near every day if I could. Obviously you start out with the 1978 movie, which every one of these lists does, but then to move into Halloween 2, which is, I think, no question, I think most people would agree that it is one of the best sequels to this series. I think it was your number 2 favorite. It was my number 3 favorite. It's such a good timeline, and it's very easy to follow. Even though once you get past part 4, you've got the crazy ending where Danielle Harris, who's playing Jamie Lloyd, attacks and stabs her mother, or stepmother, I should say. And you don't really know what direction the series is going to take. That's where there's a little bit of a why that happens at the road there. And then obviously part 5 goes into introduces us to the Man in Black, the Cult of Thorn, and then obviously part 6 is really, really heavy on that Cult of Thorn thing. Which for me, yes, I love, as much as I love not having an explanation for why Michael is the way that he is. I actually do, Halloween 6 is a movie that I really enjoy. And I do kind of like just that different take that was given on it. And I think, being written by a fan, Daniel Farrens was the one who wrote Halloween 6, and being written by a fan, I think he probably felt that as well. Like we've done the, what's the motivation? What's the lack of motivation? And so for part 6, for him to take what happened in part 5 and to basically be just thrown this pile of trash in front of him. And they said, all right, man, write the movie and you sort it out. For him to go through that and come up with the idea that he came up with for Halloween 6, personally, I really like it. I don't know that I ever would. I don't want to say I would never want to go back to the Cult of Thorn, but I think if they did it, it would have to be done a little bit more, a little bit different, maybe a little bit more believable if you were to do it in today's day and age. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the original timeline?
So I think, and you kind of nailed it right on the head, is that the sequel timeline is sort of the distinguishing factor of it is that Cult of Thorn, because it's something that none of the other timelines touch on. And it's kind of one of the only real timelines that give you a sort of explanation for why Michael is the way he is without, it doesn't make it in your face or anything like that. But if you are somebody that enjoys kind of delving into why Michael is the shape and what drives him, this is kind of an option. I really like these movies. I think if Halloween 4 wasn't in this timeline, though, my opinion of it would change a lot. But for us growing up, these were, you've got 3 films here that we were watching all the time. So I've got a big love for these movies. Where
did Halloween 5 end up for you on your list? I don't remember. It was towards the end. I know that.
Yeah, I think it was in the 10 to 13 range. Just because I don't know. I think that's probably, even though the Curse of Michael Myers was sort of this improv of a movie. 5 just felt so out of place, I guess, in between 4 and 6. And yeah, so that one's kind of what brings it down in the timeline for me. But for the most part, like, these movies are so classic to me. And if you really want that kind of nostalgia factor, this is the timeline you got to roll with.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's actually interesting because as you do, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners do, every one of these movies on every one of these movies that we have listed here is watched in the month of October. But looking at this list, specifically the sequel timeline, I watch Halloween 78, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, and Halloween 5 every Halloween. Like, that is just a staple for me. I don't know why I picked those 4 specifically for Halloween, or for Halloween Day, I should say, or to watch them, or Halloween Day night. But I think that's probably for me why Halloween 5 is so high up on my list. And I think I talked about that in our ranking, that because I watched it on Halloween, it just makes it a little bit more special for me. But yeah, I can certainly see why people are not the biggest fans of it and why they don't like it. But the sequel timeline to me is, like you said, it's the OG. I consider even though it's a different timeline, I do consider obviously H2O and Resurrection part of the OG, right? I think that's sort of, I look at it as like when the reboot happened, when Rob Zombie remade Halloween and Halloween 2. That was like the restart. That was like somebody hit the reset button, and then obviously the H40 timeline came after that. So, but I feel like that's sort of what separates all of these out. Even though I agree with the list and how we have them broken down here, I do consider H2O and Resurrection as part of that OG club.
Totally, and I think because the new H40 timeline went back to sort of the older movies, I think that's where it causes a lot of confusion with people as well too, because for the casual movie watcher, maybe you went to the theaters or you saw on TV the Rob Zombie new movies, and obviously these are newer than the 90s films. You might be confused why all of a sudden the old actress is playing Laurie. What happened? But yeah, no, absolutely, the sequel timeline probably holds maybe the most like nostalgic and highest spot in my heart. Not necessarily, I don't know where I'm going to end up choosing. I'm going to kind of pick my favorite as we talk about these. But where like my overall, I think the best films are, but definitely like the nostalgia factor is huge with that.
Absolutely. Which one do you want to do next?
I think we'll just go kind of in order of release minus the throw off random ones. Halloween H2O timeline. I call it the H2O timeline, and I've seen it called the H2O timeline online. Probably because Resurrection has sort of a stigma around it, where people wouldn't want to call it that. But this one, for me, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, I believe when we were talking to Christopher Durand, this is to me sort of the best Laurie timeline. And I know we've talked with Matt from Halloween Daily News how the new timeline sort of puts Laurie at a highlight and really makes her this heroic character. But I just find the H2O timeline, maybe sans Resurrection, to be kind of like a really, it's my favorite version of kind of the grown up Laurie.
I agree. I kind of more realistic, a more realistic Laurie Strode, as opposed to maybe what we saw in Halloween 2018, where, as you called it, I think it's perfect, like Rambo Laurie. I like Carrie Tate, principal or headmistress of this school in Northern California. I agree. I like that version of her better. Where she, even midway through the movie, once she realizes that Michael has come back, that's when we kind of get that badass Laurie, but before that, she's sort of scared. She's timid, obviously very freaked out, even just, in the scene where she's going to the, the little restaurant in town, and she sees Michael, or what she thinks is Michael, come up behind her in the window. So I agree with that 100%. I like that Laurie, as you said.
Yeah, I think H2O kind of makes, before she realizes Michael is actually back, it's kind of like Michael is this ghost that's haunting her, and I appreciate that part of that film. And again, I think just like having Laurie, who's a little bit more moved on from it, seems a little more realistic. But obviously we got some pretty sweet scenes in the H40 timeline with the more like Rambo Laurie, but we'll get to that. How do you feel about this timeline in general, man?
Yeah, I like it a lot. The downfall is in my opinion is Halloween Resurrection, which a lot of people are not huge fans of that. We're actually, we don't want to speak badly about it, because we're actually next week, we'll say this now. Next week, we're going to have Brad Lurie on the show, who played Michael Myers, and it's going to be fun to talk to him about the series. But Halloween Resurrection certainly falls at the bottom of the list of all of these movies for me. But it is still one that I enjoy watching, because it's a Halloween film. So I like obviously there's Halloween, there's Halloween 2. H2O I know falls a little bit down the list for me compared to where you had it. It's not that I don't like it. at all. It's just it's different. It's very theatrical. It's very obviously it was post Scream, so they were trying to make it a very catchy sort of movie that a lot of people were going to get behind. It was a I'm blanking on the word, but I want to use the word like pretty. Like it was a pretty movie. They were like trying to make it seem Kevin Williams obviously was involved with it, who also did Scream, and I just it's a good movie. I don't get me wrong. I still enjoy watching it, but H2O and Resurrection are definitely both that fall a little bit further down my list. So the H2O timeline is cool. Like we talked about, I enjoy the Laurie Strode, the Carrie Tate character in H2O. I really like Josh Hartnett. I think he did a really nice job. I would love to see the series go back to him at some point as sort of this survivor now, even 40 plus years down the road from, I'm sorry, not 40, 20 years plus down the road from H2O. I'd love to see him return. I doubt that will ever happen. But it would be an interesting idea. I think they H2O and Resurrection bring something different to the series. They spread their DNA or their fingerprints onto the series, and without them, obviously the series wouldn't be complete. The biggest thing that I really dislike about Halloween Resurrection is Laurie's how she dies and how she's in this mental institution and but she's still with it. I just we'll do a deep dive obviously to Resurrection someday, but I'm not a fan of how they killed her off. And we'll be talking to Brad a little bit next week about that and his thoughts or feelings on being the Michael Myers who killed Laurie Strode. He is the only Michael Myers in the entire franchise that killed Laurie Strode, because she obviously didn't die in Halloween Ends. So it is very, very interesting will be interesting to hear that.
Yeah, and I think that is sort of a separating factor between the timelines we haven't covered yet. Is I guess minus the reboot timeline, but these are the stories where we are under the impression that Laurie Strode is the sister of Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. And I gotta agree with you that the way that she went out in Resurrection is unfortunate. I think my ideal H2O timeline ends with H2O. It's a 3-movie trilogy. And I think that's kind of what Jamie Lee Curtis wanted when they created H2O. And I think they succeeded with that. As a trilogy, it's a pretty sweet series. And definitely kind of a timeline that I play around with as being my favorite, but it's obviously not a real timeline because we do have Halloween Resurrection. And yeah, her death was a bit anticlimactic. And obviously she's only got the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then we move on.
And I think, when we talked to Christopher Durand last week, one of the things that we brought up or we talked about was the fact that, if you want H2O to be the end of Michael Myers and of the Laurie Michael saga, it could be, right? I mean, you legitimately could end up or stop watching the series after H2O and be like, hey, they cut his head off. She won, Laurie won, but obviously they had bigger, grander ideas that they wanted to continue on with the series, which we're obviously thankful for. And, that's, but if you wanted it to end at H2O, you certainly could, and I would respect somebody if they said, hey, I haven't watched anything past H2O because they cut the dude's head off. I'd be like, yeah, oh, sure. I get it. Absolutely. I totally get it. As a fan, I don't want that to happen. Right. And Mustafa Akkad never wanted him to be killed. So, just with talking with, Christopher last week, he even talked about that going into it, there was going to be, there was going to be more movies that Mustafa had made that very clear that you can't kill Michael Myers. But like I said, if you really truly wanted to be like, hey, I'm done with the series after H2O, I could certainly see somebody being able to do that and be successful and stick with that in their head, I guess.
Yeah. And it kind of the way they made that movie is kind of set up for people to do that, I think. Right. But if you're looking for a timeline where Laurie is the main focus, and we're sticking to sort of the core elements of the original 1978 film, that Michael is just this random stalker of Laurie, no real connection, then you got to move on to the H40 timeline, the most recent timeline that has come out in theaters. Obviously, we've got kind of a mixed bag of reviews as far as where people stand on these movies. They're very polarizing. But to me, I think I gotta say that this is my favorite timeline, and maybe it's recency bias, but I do appreciate, I think, just because of, and we both feel this way about Michael Myers, that he should just be a kid who randomly snapped one day. And unfortunately, Lori, it was you that he came after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that it's polarizing, because Halloween Ends clearly is polarizing. Either people love it or they hate it. I mean, I don't find anybody, when they're talking about Halloween Ends, I don't find anybody who's just like, it was okay. Like, it's either we hate that movie or that movie was amazing. You and I tend to be in that movie was amazing category. We really liked it. But man, I don't know that I have ever seen another movie that has been, or a sequel, especially obviously in this franchise, but even in the horror realm, I don't think I've seen another movie that's been as polarizing as Halloween Ends. And I think for I'm not going to speak for you, but I think I can in some way, that Halloween Kills is a bit polarizing as well, at least for me, because I'm not the biggest fan of Halloween Kills. I appreciate it, again, as part of the series, especially the H40 timeline. But Halloween Kills was the writing, I thought was bad. The Evil Dies Tonight bullshit was bad. There were some parts that I guess you could say are pretty unrealistic, and they definitely crossed the line with showing whether Michael was a human, or whether he was a man, or whether he was supernatural. And which, I mean, I think you could say for a lot of these movies too. I get it, but I think the H40 timeline is polarizing, like you said. And I remember the first time I saw Halloween 2018 in the theaters. You and I didn't see that one together. We have seen it together, but the first time we saw it, we saw it at different times. But I remember the first time I saw H40, I was like, man, I'm actually a little disappointed. Like I didn't care for it. I didn't like the ending of it necessarily. But I will say it has grown on me. And I think as I go back to the list that we did, a month or so ago, H40 is on the higher end of my list than the lower end, because it's grown on me. And I've learned to sort of pick out the things that I really like about it and ignore the things that I really don't like. And I think maybe, having Halloween Kills come in right after 18, that may have been enough for me to go, oh shit, okay, 18 was good because I really dislike Kills, and then Ends. I'm a huge fan of Ends. That was probably, when we were putting our list together, that was probably my biggest struggle, because I didn't know where to put it. I knew it was high up on my list, but man, how do you put Ends before this movie or before this movie? And I definitely knew that it was better than this one, but Ends was the one that really, for me, I had to go back and forth with a lot to try to figure out exactly where that thing would end up. But I really like Ends. It's outside the box thinking. I kind of put it a little bit in that same category of The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween 6, because it is outside the box. It introduces some new ideas. Definitely, certainly understand why people don't like it, because the complaints that I hear are, it's a love story. Michael's only in it for, 9 minutes. They shouldn't have killed him off. Like that, there's this list, and I'm not arguing with any of those points. They're all valid points and points that I agree with. But I look at it as much more of a, what story are they telling and what story are they trying to wrap up? Because we know this is the end, right? It's Halloween Ends. It's the end for Laurie Strode. Clearly as the movie does come to its finale, Michael is put in the grinder, or the metal grinder, whatever the hell that thing is, and he's gone, he's dead. So I definitely understand when people get pissed off about Ends and why, but I do appreciate it. I love this timeline. I'll be honest with you that it's really a toss-up for me between H40 and the sequel timeline, the originals. I think for me, the thing that puts the sequel timeline just a notch ahead of the H40 timeline is that nostalgic piece, because those were the movies that I really grew up on, and you did as well. So I mean, quite honestly, the other thing is too, the reason why the sequel timeline is probably my favorite is because Halloween 2, and Halloween 4 are my top 3 favorites. So it just naturally would give me that feeling that those would be the best. But the H40 timeline is definitely a very, very close second.
Yeah, I think one thing that you touched on that I really want to go back to is how your opinion of 18 changed when you watched Kills. And I the reason I feel that way as well is because I too went to Halloween 2018, and I walked out kind of wanting more or different than that movie, because there were certain elements that I found cheesy or I didn't like, or the best way I can describe it is it felt a little too Blumhouse if you've watched any of their other movies. And then that factor that which in retrospect is pretty small in 18 was just blown way out of proportion in Kills, in my opinion. And kind of the things that I disliked the most about Halloween 18 were the main point of Halloween Kills. And, obviously Michael's a badass in this movie. He kills so many people. He kills a group of like Facebook moms with toasters and shit at the end. Like it's like a superhero movie with Michael Myers as the main character.
Right.
So if you're looking and the name of it is Halloween Kills, but if you're looking to just watch kind of a montage of Halloween Kills or Halloween Michael Myers, Jesus Christ, Michael Myers killing people, that's the movie for you. But again, it's that Evil Dies Tonight, the like overacting and the dramatic writing, way too unnecessary for me. I get that there is an emotional element to Michael Myers and the connection with Laurie. I feel like we got enough of that in 2018 to where we didn't maybe need to keep driving home this point that Michael Myers is this poison. But I think that is kind of the overarching theme of this timeline. And yeah, to go into ends, I'm one of the people that, you're going to crucify me either way, if you like it or not. But I am one of the people that enjoy this film. And I agree with you. Yeah, I get why you don't like this movie if you don't like it. There is things that are out of place for the rest of the series. You've got Michael, who is in a weakened state for maybe the first time we've ever seen him, where he can't defend himself. We've never really seen at least like not subdued Michael that can't defend himself in any of these movies. And so that is a little off-putting, especially after Halloween Kills, where you've created a god out of him.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because I just literally within the last couple days, I started listening to the Halloween Ends audiobook. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read through all of those in great detail, but the book starts out, and it's really interesting because the book basically, it starts when Kills ends and then goes into November 1st. And the book kind of opens up, or one of its opening chapters is about these two garbage men their job obviously is to go around and collect trash with their truck. And they actually encounter Michael, who is in tough shape. He's bleeding. He's like laying against a fence, but they know it's him. And it talks a little bit about too, even before that, how Michael escaped out of the Myers house on Halloween night, and how he like falls into a tree, or he's like leaning into a tree, and where he's basically like dying from his injuries. So the book does a much better job of like I said, Halloween Kills took it to a level where it really crossed the supernatural line, I felt like, because nobody could take a beating like that, like Michael took in Halloween Kills, and walk away. But Halloween Ends does a really good job, at least in the book, of showing that Michael got his ass kicked, and he was still human, and how he was basically dying. And then it took a few years, 4 years, I guess, to recoup, and that's where we see him at, obviously living in the cellar. So yeah, that's really interesting, and I wish that would have been a scene in Ends, because I think it would have taken it up another notch for me, because it makes sense, right? You see Michael get his ass kicked. He gets shot several times. He's obviously beaten by the Die Hard version of what's his name, the Doyle Tommy Doyle.
Yeah, he gets his ass kicked by Rambo Tommy Doyle.
Yeah, gets the pitchfork in the back. Like,
yeah, no. So they kind of negate that when he does his final kill at the end of the movie, because not only is he back to doing Michael shit, they're giving this speech at the end of the movie of how he's this, grander than life thing.
right.
So you kind of forget, that he did get beat to hell at the end of that movie. But it makes sense and ends that he's, still kind of nursing those wounds.
Right.
And I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, and I also appreciate that in Ends that, Kills was, like I said, Kills crossed the supernatural line for me, but Ends reels that back in and shows that he is very human, and he's a 2-year-old, 61-year-old man, whatever he was in that movie, 60, I don't even know, 63, 64, whatever he's supposed to be. And he is like any human being who was stabbed and shot and beat with a freaking baseball bat and the clothes iron and things like that. He got his ass kicked, and he's paying for it still in Ends. Now there's obviously they walk the supernatural line a little bit as well in Ends when he kills the cop and he orgasms on screen basically, and they show him like getting life again. Right. I think that's they cross that line a little bit again, because it's like, okay, well, does he get his power from killing people? Is it a mental thing? Like, what is it? And but yeah, I think I like the timeline. I don't know that it beats the sequel timeline for me, but it is a very, very, very close second.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's to the new generation of Halloween fans, this is the canon timeline. But if we want to bring it all the way back, the original idea, like we talked about earlier, was to have an anthology. And this is something we talked about it in our very first episode of like what could come next. I don't think this ever would happen, but I love the idea of the Halloween franchise being an anthology. So this one, obviously we've talked about 1978, the classic, our favorite. But we've got Halloween 3 here, and we also love that movie. But that's another polarizing one, man.
It is. And I agree with what you just said as far as it would have been fun to see that, but could they have really carried that on for 40 plus years like they did with all these others? I doubt it. I would guess throughout the 80s and maybe into the early 90s, we would have gotten a new Halloween movie every 4 or 5 years, something like that. But by the mid 90s to early 2000s, end of the 90s, early 2000s, I think we just Halloween, the anthology would be long gone. And maybe you would get, somebody to revisit it in later years, still maybe do a reboot, like Rob Zombie did. But I agree, as much fun as it would have been to see a series that was all based around the day of Halloween, that would be cool. But I also feel like, we have those movies also. We have Trick or Treat. We have Tales of Halloween. We have the movie 1031. I mean, there are these anthology movies where there's an anthology within one movie that are all based on Halloween. So in a way, I feel like we sort of got that. Just they're not actually, like Tales of Halloween. There's like whatever 5, 6, 7 stories in that one movie. So we're kind of getting them all in obviously short bursts throughout the movie versus having, where like Halloween 3 was just an entire movie that was about, some incidents that were happening on Halloween or around Halloween time. But Halloween 3 is no question, one of my favorites of this. We will do a deep dive into Halloween 3 at some point. We'll probably do a watch along or commentary or something like that. Because at the end of the day, no, it does not have Michael Myers in it, besides what you see on the TV screen in the bar. But it is a Halloween movie, and we can't forget about it. Obviously, John Carpenter and Tommy Lee Wallace and Deborah Hill, they were all still, very involved in the making of Halloween 3. So Halloween 3 has the DNA of John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, and obviously Tommy Lee Wallace in it. And even it has some of the same actors. You see, and I just heard this, and I guess I've not paid attention to it, but I guess it's true that that Jamie Lee Curtis is actually the voice of that comes out of the speaker when it's curfew. I don't know
that. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's true or not, and I've never really paid attention to it, but I need to the next time I watch it. But somebody said, yeah, that's her voice, which is kind of cool, you know?
Oh yeah, no, super cool, and a good nod to the previous two films. But yeah, as cool as it would be to have kind of a grown up Goosebumps, I I hadn't thought about it the way you just said it, that we probably wouldn't have this franchise still to this day had it gone this way. Somebody at some point would have made a movie that would try to connect them all, and it would have been shitty and it would have been horrible. But no, I'm good with the anthology being these two films because I love them both. And then just to kind of think of what could have came after that.
Right.
But finally, our last timeline to talk about, and sort of rightfully last and maybe least, is the reboot timeline. Now, I say least, but Halloween 2007 is absolutely a fantastic Halloween film. It does follow very closely the events of the original Halloween movie, but it brings in that element, sort of like the sequel timeline, where if you want to know a little bit of why Michael is the way he is, this is really the timeline for you.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so both of these movies fall to the lower end of my ranking for different reasons. And even Halloween 2007, even though I watch it every year and it's still a Halloween film, it's not one of my favorites. And if you had to ask me to get rid of any timeline here, what would it be? It would definitely be the reboot timeline. I do appreciate Halloween 2 for what it is, that it's different. It is very Halloween Ends-esque as far as the liberties that were taken to create the movie. And Rob Zombie has a very specific look and tone that he goes for in his movies. Very much like anything else that he's done. House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Like, they all have a very specific theme to them, and I think those carry over into the Halloween and Halloween 2 series. But it's just not my favorite for sure. Definitely not my favorite.
No, we've ranked some of our favorite kills in the timeline, and a lot of them, or a good chunk of them, came from this timeline. Because of how brutal Michael is in these movies. And that's some of my favorite parts of this timeline, this reboot duology. Is that a word? I don't know. But it's really cool to kind of see these movies re-envisioned in kind of updated. Obviously, it's modern times for when it came out.
Right.
And like I said, the first one follows it very closely. So as far as remakes go, I was super happy with it when it came out. But now, the time has passed, and I've seen better movies placed in modern day come out featuring Michael Myers. So it proves that it can be done better than that. But that kind of wraps it up. So what you did say, sequel timeline is your number one then?
Yeah. So if I was to rank them, I would go sequel timeline, H40 timeline, H2O timeline, anthology timeline, reboot timeline. That would be mine. What would you say?
I think same deal, but I'm gonna flip H40 and sequel, and similar to where you're saying it's very close. They're very close for me.
Right. Right.
And like I said, it could be recency bias, but I just love the way that Ends wraps things up. And I know there's probably everybody's clicking away from me saying that, but that is how I feel. And that's why it's got to go top. But then, yeah, reboot at the end for me, and H2O kind of right there in the middle.
Yeah, no matter what, as we've mentioned many, many times, all of these films hold a special place in each of our hearts. And if somebody said, "Hey, you only get to watch Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 for the rest of your life," I'd be like, well, all right, that's it then, I guess, right? I mean, that's what I get to watch, but I could live with it. I guess that's my point. And we'll do we'll take every single movie. I'll take a new Halloween movie every year. I don't care. I'm going to watch them all. I'm a Halloween whore for Halloween movies, and I'll take whatever I can get, even if it's some shitty direct to video type sequel, which obviously the series was really headed that direction after Halloween 6. And it is interesting to hear that, because I really think H2O sort of reset the series, or at least lit a fire under the ass of the series and got us back into the game, because there's no question that was the direction that the series was going, because Halloween 6 was, at that time was a bit of a flop, and still not a lot of people, even to this day, look at it as a great movie, even though it is something that I definitely enjoy, and I know it's I think it's more kind of in the middle for you, maybe a little bit closer to the back end of the middle, but yeah, I'll take any one of those movies all day long. Just obviously have your preferences with the original series for me is just the top, and it's probably the nostalgia piece. Quite honestly, that's what sets it apart.
Yeah, I think we've had more time for the scenes to really sit in and settle with us. We've had time to study the soundtracks, and we've watched them more, man. There's just been more opportunity to watch them.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. I know that we're going to transition here, because we do want to talk about, we did our sort of mask, not even necessarily a mask ranking, but we went through all the masks a few episodes ago. And I want to bring something up, because as you guys have seen, this mask right here is a new mask. And the old mask that I had is right here. And this is a Darkness Reigns Madman 78 mask, and this thing is badass. And I'm just gonna do a cheap little advertisement for myself here, that I am selling this mask. Okay, if you are interested in this mask, it's about a 23.5-inch pull, so it's thick as well. But the hair is amazing. The paint job, I actually like the paint job better on this mask than I do on the other mask. And so if you're watching this at home and you want this mask, it's a Darkness Reigns Madman 78 mask. The hair is freaking badass on this thing. The paint job is awesome, and it's a great mask. So if you're interested in buying it, I have it up on eBay right now, or if it doesn't sell on eBay, you guys are welcome to hit me up. And if I still have it, I'll sell it to the first person who wants to buy it, because if it wasn't for the fact that I have a big ass head, I'd be keeping this mask, because it is sweet. And I mean, just like it changes, the look however you want to. If you got a little bit of a thicker, neck on it, or this is hard to do with the camera, but the whole mask just completely changes shape and changes looks. So yeah, check it out. If you like it, check it out.
Yeah, no, if I didn't have this big ass head, I would also be, it probably wouldn't be on the screen right now, because I would have bought it off you.
Right. Right.
But I got to stick with, the big Trick or Treat Studios one, because it's just not working for me. Yeah. In light of that, Trick or Treat being this wonderful thing that has helped us have great masks readily available at any costume shop. We got to talk about what life was like. Take your mind back 10, 15 years ago to when you go into a Halloween store, open up a Halloween catalog, and you just want to see Michael Myers, man. That's all I wanted to see. And it was always the Dawn Post, the mask. Mm-hmm. And there were these other ones, man. And so we're going to get into that. So I'm going to start off. So these basically what I'm going to get into, and sorry for the audio listeners, this is one you probably should just swing on over to YouTube for. But I'm going to show you some of the wonderful world of the kind of bootleg Michael Myers masks and mass produced ones that are either still happening or were in the past and were kind of the only things we could get our hands on. And it's going to progressively get worse, because there are just some horrible masks in this collection. So let's start it off. This one, not horrible. It looks like it's a recast from the Trick or Treat Studios Halloween 2018 mask. I have named this the H18 Bastard Child, because there's just something off, man.
It looks like, well, there's something weird with the eyes, but to me, it looks like a caveman. Like I don't know why. It reminds me of like a caveman. Like you got kind of the wide, flat nose sort of going on, and that hair is crazy. I think you're right. I mean, it was obviously cast in in relation to Halloween 18, but yeah, that is an ugly ass mask. That is an ugly ass mask.
No, yeah, it just looks stretched out. Something did not go right, and I'm glad you pointed out the hair, because that is kind of a theme we're going to see with, I believe, all of these men. I don't think any of them have even decent hair. But I mean, like, this is very clearly like a wig that they just glued on, which in the spirit of John Carpenter's original, I guess that was sprayed hair, but it's a makeshift mask. But like I said, things are just going to go downhill from here. So if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, horrible mask, I'm so sorry, because we have another bastard child coming up next. And this time, if it's of a mask that really doesn't deserve a second look. We've got the H5 bastard child. Look at this thing, dude. Yeah. It is like Nicolas Cage. Well, it is. I guess we talked about how it is like Nicolas Cage, but this has got like a mullet, a receding hairline. You can tell it's H5, but something is just wrong.
Yeah, it looks like he should be in a 1990s like alternative cover band with that hair, and he's his eyes are super close, clearly based off of H5. There's no question about that. But he looks like especially even you can see the dude's eyes who's wearing the mask underneath, and he's like cross-eyed. He looks like he just got kicked in the balls or something, and he's like cross-eyed underneath that mask. Terrible mask. Terrible.
Yeah, no. And kind of keeping with the theme of this kind of receding hairline vibe, we've got the midlife crisis mic here. And dude, I don't know what's going on with this mask. It's like flat in some areas, but too round in others.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is another recasting of like the 1978 from Trick or Treat Studios, because there are some elements where you're like, oh yeah, that's Michael Myers, but something is just so wrong.
What's amazing is that somebody actually made that mask, put it in a package, put it in a box, and shipped it out to somebody, and they opened it, and that's what they saw. I think that's hysterical. What I can only put myself in the shoes of that person and be like, what in the frick did I just open?
Oh yeah, because the picture was probably like the NAG mask you got behind you. I have a feeling a lot of these are like from overseas, and this was made by some poor child gluing the hair on, spraying it white, and
he was making his 3 cents a day to make that mask.
Exactly. So this is where things begin to get weird, and if you thought they weren't weird before, I like to call this one the South Park H2, because the eyes are just like, this is so cartoony. I mean, you've got like Barbie Ken doll hair,
which I don't like. That I know Tots did some masks like that too, where they're that rubbery latex hair. I don't get. I mean, I'm sure it makes them more consistent in their production, probably easier to push out, not having to worry about hairlines and actually gluing the hair to the head. But yeah, I mean, what in the H? It's that's hideous. And then just the blood tears is, which I've never. I mean, I know that's obviously a huge piece of Halloween 2. I never liked that idea because it's just so unrealistic. Like the dude took 2 rounds of the head, shot both of his eyes out, and he's sitting there bleeding out of his mask, but his brains aren't splattered across the wall.
Right. Well, that's something we could talk about with H2O too, is 2 working eyes in that film, very clearly 2 working eyes.
Right.
So up next is it's just Steve Buscemi. It's just Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi.
If you don't know who he is, I've included some helpful reference here. But I remember this one, dude, going to the stores and seeing blue-lipped Michael Myers.
Yeah, dude, I remember this mask back when I was a kid. It came out. It must have been, I think it was post Halloween 6, if I remember right. But I specifically remember looking at this mask at Target. They sold this mask at Target. And I remember as a kid trying it on, and the mask was massive. I mean, massive on my head. And if honestly, it's one of those things that because it is a little bit of a nostalgic mask for me, if I could find a cheap one that was still in good shape, I'd probably buy it just because just to have it on display. But who in their right mind looked at this thing and said, "Hey, let's put blue lips on this dude like he's not breathing."
Right. Yeah. And the shocked one thing we're going to find as a common theme with these masks is a lot of them have like the H4 shocked expression. And this isn't scary. Like, dude, if somebody was wearing this on Halloween, I would laugh before I'd be feel any amount of terror. Even if you've got, creepy customs coveralls and the Tots knife, like, dude, this is just not scary. It's funny.
Yeah.
The next one, similar to the eyes of this one, butthole eyes is what I named it, and it's another one of those with the sculpted hair, but it's also just like somebody took a vacuum cleaner right to the middle of it and just sucked the front. He's kind of got a beak on him.
Yeah, it's like the dude who's wearing the mask is like breathing really hard to try to get any air in the mask is like sucking to his face every time he's taking a breath. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And again, you have the latex hair, the ears are sticking out funny, weird long mask. Also, that dude looks like a giraffe underneath who's wearing it because look at how low his shoulders are and where the top of his head. What was the name of that football player? Giraffe neck. He played for
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I can't think of him either, but he had the freaking longest neck in the world.
Mike White?
No, not Mike. No, I'll think of it, but it was not Mike White. But this dude I think that's him. That's when his NFL career ended. He was trying on Michael Myers masks, but
also just like very clearly too small of a person to be wearing this mask too.
Yep.
Next up, I call this one the shocked shitter because it looks like somebody, took a snapshot of me on the toilet and I wasn't expecting it. Yeah. There's a big problem with the symmetry. The eyebrows are just kind of wherever the hell they wanted them. This one does have decent hair though. So I was wrong. But everything else is bad.
Yeah. I mean, the eyebrows are not even centered in the right spot. I agree. It's like he was literally looking down at like a Hustler magazine and his mom came in and he was like, oh shit. Like that's what this look is,
Yeah.
Mike,
and it doesn't help.
Glennon, by the way, Mike Glennon has the world's longest neck. Mike Glennon.
Yes. Yeah. This one right here is very Mike Glennon-esque.
Yep.
So next up is just kind of one that like, why would you do this? I call it dollar store Mike because it looks like literally this costed less than a penny to create. It's just I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. It looks like one of those like at this point, just get one of those blank white masks.
But here's the deal. There's something slightly creepy about that mask. And I don't know what it is, if it's the small eyes, but I mean, if you woke up in the middle of the night and that dude was standing next to you in that mask, I'd shit my pants.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely creepy in its own regard.
Right. But not Michael Myers creepy.
No, and you just know it's like one of those plastics that like folds in if you let it go, and it like cuts into your face.
Yeah, it looks like the old school like Ben Cooper boxed Halloween costume masks that you used to get. Like I had some of those when I was a kid, and the masks would always like shatter or break on the edges, and then you get cuts all over your face because you put the mask on or around your eyes. It would like poke your eyes. Yeah, that's a shitty ass mask.
Definitely. And this is where things really take a turn for the worse. This is Inbred Mike. And we talked about symmetry being a problem on the last one.
Yeah.
What the hell is happening here, man?
Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Myers were definitely cousins with this mask. There's no question about it. And to think that somebody actually, again, shipped that thing out. Like he's got, like, look at those butthole lips that he's got. They're like the wrinkles have wrinkles. You know what I mean?
Very clearly. I think it's supposed to be Halloween 2018 that they're trying to replicate here.
Yeah.
And again, they probably used the Trick or Treat Studios 18 mask as their like buy.
They were right. They were referencing that for sure. Yeah.
But this, you got to think like a lot of these pictures are like people who are pissed off because they went on eBay and bought a Michael Myers mask.
Right.
And this is the thing that showed up on their door. This next one's really low quality image, but it's really low quality mask. This is Mycadelic. And
Yeah.
I think Michael stuck his key into an electrical outlet. He's kind of got some rock star blowout hair. This was Michael Myers as he filled in Motley Crue for a few years.
I was going to go with the Jackson 5. Like this would be the Jackson 6 if you get Afro Mike, in there as well, because he's got like the Afro thing going on. Just looks like he should be dancing next to Tito, and it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, like we couldn't book Michael Jackson,
right? So we got Michael Myers.
Yeah, we got Michael Myers. So I keep looking to my right because I've got the PowerPoint over here, and I don't want to shock you. I kind of want to preface some of these. Now, this one, Blaine, if you're looking for a bargain, if you want some bang for your buck, this mask actually serves as a 2-in-1 because if you turn it around, you've got a free Chewbacca mask as well.
That's true.
It looks like somebody like skinned a bear and used the pelt as the hair. Obviously, I think this is supposed to be Halloween Kills.
It's very, very interesting how the hair. I mean, that's some thick ass hair. I'd be proud as hell to have that kind of hair. But it's very Chewbacca like. Clearly, the paint job is top notch. I mean, having that sort of half yellow greenish color across half the face. It looks like Radioactive Mike. Like that's what this is.
Absolutely. And he's kind of got like the early 2000s pop punk mascara going on too. Really drive home that he's edgy.
Yeah, when he's driving, he's listening to Green Day.
Absolutely. Now, this next one is, we've all kind of got that one person in the family. I mean, we share a family, so hopefully we're not this person for each other.
This person, yeah.
But it's just I call this one the Uncle Greg Myers, because it's just like that creepy uncle that definitely was in Nam, but so like you respect him, but he's just a dirty old man, and that's what this mask looks like to me.
This Uncle Greg is like he plays Santa Claus on Christmas, and he's like, hey, come sit on my lap. Like, no, Uncle Greg, that's weird. I'm 27. Leave me alone. No, come sit on my lap. Like, no. Yeah, that's definitely creepy. I would not want that dude looking in my window wearing that mask, but it's not Michael Myers.
No. Like, and this is another one that is creepy in its own regard, but holy Christ, just so wrong.
Yeah.
But if the
and that hair,
the
hair color is not right either.
No, he's kind of got a ginger vibe to him. And
do his eyebrows have eyebrows? It's kind of like he's got lines.
His brows are very pronounced, and they have their own separate layer of eyebrows to really drive home that anger. But if ugly Uncle Greg isn't the Michael Myers you want to wear this Halloween, boy, are you in luck, because we've got Blue Steel Mike right here.
Yeah.
And this dude is as sexy as it gets. He is pouting. He's got luscious, shiny hair.
Yeah. It's like if Mariah Carey, Prince, and Michael Myers got together in a 3-way. This is what it would look like.
That was really accurate. No, it's just wrong on a lot of levels. I wouldn't be scared. I might be a little turned on if I saw this Michael Myers.
Yeah. I feel like he'd be judging my dance moves at a wedding, being like, that white boy needs a few more drinks before he goes back out on the dance floor.
Oh yeah, he's for sure like eyeing up and down your outfit and being like, really, gray and blue.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is just a tough look for Michael Myers. But a great look for anybody else.
Yeah, this is the all are welcome here, Michael Myers.
Absolutely,
that's Michael Myers.
So the next one, and this is the final one, is it really a doozy? I call this one the diarrhea hairnet Mike, because it looks like he is wearing a hairnet, obviously filled with human excrement, and the face is super creepy on this. If this had hair that was not diarrhea hairnet, it would probably be a really creepy Michael Myers mask, because it is almost featureless. But God, dude, it looks like. Do you watch Rick and? Have you ever seen Rick and Morty at all?
No,
Oh,
no.
he's got big Morty vibes. Tough to look at, man.
He gives me the vibes of like 3 different kids I went to high school with. Like that's what it looks like. There's a specific person I have in mind that I'm like, holy shit, it looks like they did a cast of your ugly ass face. They didn't have the hair like that, but yeah, that's kind of again very inbred sort of Mike. It is creepy in the sense that it's very unfinished, but. Yeah, it would actually be really interesting if he does have his hair in a hairnet, like if you let it down, that would probably be like luscious locks of hair, you know?
Yeah, luscious, beautiful streaks of diarrhea would flow from his crown.
That's
no.
hideous.
So that wraps up our sort of thank you to Trick or Treat Studios, because now we've got these beautiful masks that need very little work to look like they're fresh off the movie screen.
And this is why you should buy this mask from me. If you're watching this right now, you should buy this Madman because it is badass. Just compare the mask to what you see on your screen right now. You know,
it's crazy that 2 artists looked at the same movie and those 2 results happened.
Yeah.
But
no, that's crazy, man. Well, thanks for putting that together, because it definitely goes to show how shitty some movies or some masks can be.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just tough all the way around, and we're not that far away from it. Like it really wasn't that long ago that was the best you could get.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
It's crazy stuff, man. So please buy my mask. It's up on eBay right now. I'll show it one more time. Please buy my mask. It's awesome.
Hey, Blaine, do you have a Michael Myers mask for sale anywhere that I could find?
Yeah, I do. That's the Madman done by Darkness Reigns, Madman 78. It's badass. Buy that thing.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
No, it's a sweet mask.
Yeah, man. Well, that wraps up this episode. As we mentioned, we've got Brad Lurie, who's going to be coming on the program next week. We're super excited to get the chance to interview him and hear all about the details of making Halloween Resurrection, which, we've talked about this. Like did a great job playing Michael Myers. He moved very well. We have our differences, I guess, in our opinions of the mask that he wears. But the Michael Myers character in that movie is one of the best parts of that movie, if that makes sense. No,
totally. And I think that's like something that you gotta acknowledge about Halloween 8 is, to me, he's the most, up until James Jude Courtney, or I guess Tyler Mane did his best kind of Nick Castle-esque impression, but Halloween 8 is it feels more Michael Myers in his movements than maybe H2O and H6 and H5 really for me. But it's definitely worth mentioning that he is one of the best on-screen Michael Myers, despite the movie kind of falling short in that regard.
Right. Yeah, no, we're excited to get to talk to him, and we'll have lots of awesome questions for him. Before we take off here, I do want to read off the results, since this episode is over, the results of the poll. So if you are, the question was that I asked is, which timeline is your favorite for the Halloween series? And I had on I didn't include the Anthology. That was not one that I added on there, but I had the other 4, which was the sequel series, sequel timeline, the H2O timeline, the H40 timeline, and then Rob Zombies. And what I came up with, I disappear off the screen. There I am. What the results are is, at 46% of people who voted, the H40 timeline is their favorite, followed by the sequel timeline, then followed by the H2O timeline, and then finally at 8% with the votes, or 8% of the votes, Rob Zombies. So very similar to kind of what we came up with ourselves.
Honestly, I am shocked that I'm happy that there's this part of the fandom, but I am shocked that 8% of people were like, yeah, give me Rob Zombie, white trash, people murdering each other.
I agree.
Over, obviously the originals.
Right.
But good for you. And that's the amazing part of this series is if you choose a favorite that I disagree with, I still get why you choose it.
Right. No, for sure. Yeah, man, that's going to wrap this episode up. We're going to be back next week with Brad Lurie, and man, can't wait to interview him and see what we got to say to him and what he's got to say to us. So this is going to do it for this episode. I'm Blaine Duncan. That is my brother Austin, and this is my Michael Myers mask that you should buy. One last push. And we will see you guys next week. This is Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. I'll re-say that. This is Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. And it is the only weekly podcast out there 100% dedicated to the Halloween franchise. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube. Let us know how we're doing. We can't thank you guys enough. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.